The place, Oahu Island, Hawaii. The date, December 7, 1941. The occasion, the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. Dawn broke at 6:26 a.m. Hawaii time as residents of Oahu and military personnel at Pearl Harbor slept on a quiet Sunday morning. Little did they know that just 16 minutes earlier, the first wave of planes had taken off from Japanese aircraft carriers 200 miles north of the island. Following a plan developed by Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, a second wave would take off an hour later. At 7:02, a radar station at Opana, Oahu spots unidentified aircraft heading toward Hawaii, but at 7:20 a.m., an Army lieutenant disregards this report because he believes it's a flight of US B-17 bombers coming from California. At 7:40, the first wave of Japanese aircraft reaches Oahu, and 9 minutes later, Captain Mitsuo Fuchida breaks radio silence to shout "Tora, Tora, Tora," the coded message informing the Japanese fleet they had caught the Americans by surprise. At 7:55 a.m., the attack begins. Jimmie Lee, a teenager living on a farm in Oahu, describes what he saw as the planes arrive.
Just before 8 o'clock, all of a sudden, wow, the rows of the airplanes coming by, flying real low. And then we could see some funny-looking red circles under the plane.
At the same time, Robert Kinzler and his fellow Army soldiers at Schofield Barracks above Pearl Harbor are awakened by the gunfire and explosions.
We ran out onto the lanai. The plane was only about 30 feet from us. We saw that both the pilot and the gunner wore a brown leather helmet with a fringe. There was nothing above Pearl Harbor except just very dense black smoke from the burning oil.
At 8:10 a.m., Jimmie Lee and fellow family members are watching the attack as the USS Arizona explodes.
And all of a sudden, we could see smoke coming out from the Arizona, dark smoke and fire, and then all of a sudden that loud explosion. It was a sight and something that you could never forget.
Jimmie and his family continue to watch as additional ships are struck and sunk by the Japanese, and at 8:54 a.m., the second wave of attack begins.
We ran up into the fields, up in the hills, a couple of miles away from us, hid out in the caves. It seemed like hours, but only about 2 hours had gone by, and then all of a sudden it was quiet.
As Jimmie would learn as he emerged from the cave, all was quiet because at 10 a.m. the attack ended and Japanese planes headed back to their carriers. The next day, President Franklin Roosevelt would address a joint session of Congress and the American public, and America would enter World War II.